Week 2 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, Sherice, Kansas City Chiefs. So right here, Sherice, he looked like the best receiver in week 1 for this Chief team, where Kadarius Toney couldn't catch passes. Sky Moore, he couldn't get open at all. He dropped the pass at 2 as well. And Sherice at least went out there and he made some plays. 3 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown versus the Detroit Lions in week 1. So right here, week 2, a potential big shootout ball game for this Chief team at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Travis Kelce most likely will be back in this ball game. Sherice, he was a second-round pick for this Chief team. And if he could go out there and make plays, he's going to see the field. So right now, available in 63% of fantasy leagues. And like I said, he looked like the best receiver on this team in week 1. And they do spread you out 4 or 5 wide. And things are going to open up even more, I believe, for this passing game. Obviously, with Kelce back. And these receivers getting minimum coverage. So right now, I got Sherice as a sleeper this week. Next receiver is Allen Robinson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we know Deontay Johnson, he's going to be out multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. And Allen Robinson, we know the last couple seasons have been down years for him. But right now, with no pressure, the guy could come in and play his game and not worry about living up to a big contract. I think Allen Robinson could put up some fantasy points and make some plays. And he's a good route runner still, which is obviously good for a young quarterback like Kenny Pickett. So week 1 after Johnson went down, he came in and worked out of the slot was Robinson. 5 catches, 64 yards on 8 targets. And right here in week 2, I know it's a tough matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, but this is a division ball game. This is going to be a grinded out type of ball game, I believe, between these two teams. Now, Allen Robinson, like I said, he still could go out there, I believe, and make some plays here. He's available right now in 91% of fantasy leagues. They pretty much just have him, Calvin Austin, and obviously George Pickens, who I think gets shut down in this ball game if Denzel Ward is going to be on him the majority of the game. So right now, Robinson, a veteran, still could run routes, and a guy that could fly under the radar and have a bounce-back season, because we've seen it with him before where he's had a bad season, then out of nowhere he comes out with a big year. Now if he's getting an opportunity, I think he's a wide receiver that could be decent for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And a sleeper option this week, and the third and final receiver I have as a sleeper is Tank Dell of Houston Texans. So Tank Dell, he's the rookie over there they drafted in the 3rd round for this Texan team. And Noah Brown now went on IR, so it looks like he's the 3rd wide receiver in this offense behind Nico Collins and Robert Woods, who both those guys had good ball games. In week 1, Dell still saw the field. 4 targets, caught 3 of them for 34 yards, and he's an explosive wide receiver with good speed. So right here, week 2, indoor ball game, opener for the Houston Texans. Indianapolis Colts, their secondary isn't all that great. And I think Dell could go out there and make some plays. So right now, if you need a sleeper option at the receiver position, he's available right now as Dell in 96% of fantasy leagues. And like I said, if he gets opportunity now with Noah Brown on IR, he can make the most of it, especially if it's a ball game they're trailing here, and get a lot of garbage points. That's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers for week 2 of the fantasy football season.